Question number 4 is probably going to remind you a lot of question number 2 because they're giving us two pieces of an exponential function, 2 points on the curve, but neither of them is particularly useful. So remember in number 2, letter A, we had this 3 comma 56. That was not terribly helpful because 3 or 56 was not really part of the equation, and we didn't have enough information to know exactly what the multiplier was until we sort of guessed and checked a few possibilities using the 3 and the 56. Question number 4 is similar. They're giving you 1 and 20 and 3 and 320, but that doesn't do me a whole lot of good. I mean, I can visualize 1, 2, 3, what this would look like. I'll have to make a really roughly scaled graph. So 1 comma 20 would be something like here. 3 comma 320 would be way up high, so way up here. And I can make an inference. I can infer that if the curve is going from 1 to 3 and going upwards in terms of its y-coordinates, it's probably going to have an increasing shape to it. It's probably going to be a multiplier bigger than 1, but because they didn't tell us directly, we know we're going to have to take a similar approach that we did in question number 2a. Remember how in question number 2a we said think of it like a sequence table? This is where you can capitalize on your understanding of sequences, because an exponential function is simply a geometric sequence for all intents and purposes. There are a couple of small differences between exponential functions and geometric sequences, but none of those things are important right now. I would say as long as you understand that exponential is just another word for geometric, you're in fine shape. Now if we do the same thing we did before and make a table of values, I'll go horizontally just to fit the space here. We know that the first term that they gave us was 20, and the third term they gave us was 320. So I can do just like I did in letter A in number 2 and sort of guess and check the pattern so I can figure out the multiplier. As always, it's tricky to guess and check. It involves patience for sure. Do the best you can to see what you can come up with. I personally am just going to kind of guess some numbers, like 20 times 2 is 40, times 2 is only 80. Okay, so it has to be bigger than 2. 20 times 10 is 200, times 10 is 2,000. Okay, 10 is way too big, so I've narrowed it down. It looks like it's even, so maybe something like 5, because 5 works nicely with numbers that end in 0. 20 times 5 is 100, times 5 is 500. Okay, so it has to be smaller than 5. But what about 4? 20 times 4 is 80, times 4 is 320. Okay, so it looks like we found it. The multiplier must be 4. And we could even go backwards if we had to, which it looks like we'll have to do, because remember how the y-intercept is the one with the x-coordinate 0? If I went backwards to find that initial value, the opposite of multiplying 4 is dividing 4. So I can predict that the initial value, or the y-intercept, must have been 5. That actually seems to fit the sketch that I made, because notice that sketch that I made a couple of moments ago? If I looked at the y-intercept, and granted it was just a sketch, but still, it does seem like 0, 5 would be a very reasonable set of coordinates for that point. So it looks like guess and check could definitely work. But for those of us who always tend to ask ourselves, ugh, do I have to guess? Can I just solve this with algebra? The answer is yes, you could. And if you want to, you could definitely solve an equation, or solve algebraically, to figure out that the multiplier is 4 and that the initial value is 5. If you can, try to make a quick inference in question letter C and question letter D about how you can use the points that you were given in some sort of structure like this, y equals a times b to the power of x, and can you create something that you can solve algebraically, an equation or a series of equations that you think could work. Make a hypothesis on your own if you can before starting the next video to just see if anything occurs to you. If nothing occurs to you, then watch on, and in the next video, I'll show you how we'll set it up.